Hey luminaries, it's time to plan your upcoming work week. It's going to feel like a little bit of push and pull this week as we have some energies that are abruptly putting on the brakes, and then we have some other energies that say, hey, let's move on forward go with the flow. So which way do you go? Welcome to the Savvy Luminary podcast, Astrology for Entrepreneurs. I'm your host, Leslie Tagorda, creator of the Astrobrand Method, business astrologer, brand designer, author, and Aquarius boss woman. I help visionary spiritual entrepreneurs and impact makers like you illuminate and amplify your unique star powers so you can be the luminary you were born to be. I love understanding all of the cosmic transits that we are all feeling. When I put together this Business StarCast report, this is so that you can understand the energies that we all get to play with. Remember, these are collective cosmic energies available to us all, and there's nothing to be fearful of. Even if there's something like a challenging retrograde or a square that you might be feeling, because instead of looking at a transit as being challenging or hard, we get to get curious with how do we get to use this energy in our lives, in our businesses, instead of working against them. So as you're about to listen to the cosmic notes of this upcoming week, I urge you to get curious about what you need to learn and how you get to work with this energy in your businesses. For those outer planets with those larger shifts, those outer planets that move slowly, you may feel this energy leading up to a few days, even weeks, and leading away from. And of course, if you're going to personalize these energies with conjunctions and meetings where I'm giving you specific degrees and activations, find out where that degree lives in your own natal chart. The astrological house that contains that degree is going to give you insight as to where in your life and your business you're going to have the most impact. And if you have any natal energies that are also being activated by any of these cosmic energies, that's going to give you more insight as to what's coming up for you in your own business. All right, let's dive into the Business StarCast for this upcoming week. Before we get into the astrology of the week, I wanted to share some reflections on last week's new moon in Taurus. First of all, I hope you had a beautiful, beautiful new moon and you got really clear in your intentions, because your intentions, getting the practice of getting clear with what you want, is just as important as planting those seeds. It is through that practice of making space and making time to sit with what is in your heart and your soul that wants to come out through your work, and having that regular rhythm using the moon to then ask spirit to help guide you. I've noticed so many of my clients over and over again that once they see a certain possibility or they ask a specific question for something that is so aligned to their true purpose, that the universe just sends them all of these signs, just validating for them that, hey, you are on your right path. So if you feel that you're just kind of, you don't know what you want, or you don't know where to go, what your next step, where do you focus? Yes, you can look to astrology, but if you don't want to look to astrology, you can purely look into your own heart, get quiet, sit for a little bit, and really get clear with yourself. What do you want? One of the things that I noticed this last new moon, that this Taurus new moon it was evident that it wasn't necessarily about planting the seeds of abundance and money. And I know I'm still talking about the Taurus new moon, even though we're all the way a week later, because I've just had so many experiences and just looking at so many people's charts for the new moon ceremony. I went through like over 28 charts that day, and I kept on seeing the same themes of not feeling enough. And part of Taurus is about feeling worthy, feeling satisfied, and feeling full. And so it leads me to believe that no matter how hard we work, no matter how much we do to raise our rates, raise our value, do more, earn more, that we're never going to be able to fill this emptiness inside of us unless we can already begin to see that we are already full. When we are already full, it prevents us from burnout, because oftentimes we're overworking and hustling and trying to do all of the things because we don't feel worthy. We've been taught that we need to work really hard in order to add value. And this is where that fine point is, right? When we're talking about our businesses and how do we add value and how do we contribute back into the world? How do we price our services based on the perceived value? We get kind of stuck in this we get stuck in this trap. We get stuck in this catch 22. And so during the new moon ceremony that I co-hosted with Natalie Miller, she reminded us that it's not about us doing and hustling and moving, but it's tapping into this energy of value, tapping into the idea, the doing versus tapping into is just like an energetic shift inside, where now you're not forcing things and trying to make things happen, which I am so guilty of, but instead of just tapping into the energy and not so much just going with the flow, because we need some directions, but saying, hey, I have this direction. I'm going to follow my stars. This is where I want to go. And how can I tap into that energy without trying so hard? So I hope that that message somehow made a little bit of sense for you. As personally, for me, I felt like I spoke in circles, but you know what? We are going to take it as it is, because I am enough, just like you are enough. All right, so let's talk about the astrology of the week. So, the astrology of the week for May 16th through the 22nd is a little bit interesting. On one hand, we have some of our personal planets already in Gemini. We have Venus and Mercury already there, and the sun is going to meet up with them in just a little bit later on this week. And then on the other hand, we have Saturn and Uranus still in fixed signs. I mean, Saturn and Uranus, that's the theme for this entire year, in Saturn in Aquarius and Uranus in Taurus. So we have fixed air, so fixed communications, fixed social structures, fixed ideas, fixed knowing, fixed time with Saturn and Aquarius. And with Uranus, the innovator and the shaker things up, but like Uranus feels stuck in Taurus, where everything is about fixed earth, fixed creation, fixed money. And so of course this theme has been about breaking the systems this year. So as we look at all the breakdowns that are happening, to us personally and to our communities all over the globe, I believe that the idea that we're trying to understand right now is that how do we not get stuck in our own systems? How do we make space to be open and receptive? And maybe things have to break down before we can get there. So let's see how this all unfolds. So let's dive into the astrology of the week. Our first meetup in the sky this week happens on Monday, May 17th at exactly 2:49 a.m. Pacific, 5:49 a.m. Eastern, where the sun is in a harmonious trine with Pluto that is currently retrograde, with the sun in Taurus and Pluto still on 26 degrees of Capricorn, where our theme is the power to create and make. What creative intensity is now harmoniously building? For a few days leading up to and away, the Taurian sun is in flow with transformative Pluto. This supportive and harmonious energy may feel like clarity from unconscious energies rising up to help you with your creative force. It could feel like the understanding of a resolution of deep emotions that have previously caused you shame, but now you can see how these have impacted your creative process. Pay attention and notice these deep creative forces. They are necessary in our life and add so much beautiful wisdom. I wrote that a while ago, a few months back, not even thinking about like how this was like working in our real lives. And after this new moon ceremony that I did with Natalie Miller and 30 other people, where I looked at everybody's charts and we really dug into what we needed to heal in terms of our worthiness, when I just read that, what I just wrote here about understanding these unconscious energies of being enough or not being enough, and that's like very, very Plutonian, the shame and the blame that come from not being enough. It feels like this week is you're going to have some clarity and lifting if you've been doing some of that deep work to build your worthiness and build your plentitude. I feel like this Pluto, the Sun trine Pluto, is going to bring up some great clarity, bring up some deep wounds that maybe you've hidden and stuffed down for a while. I'm feeling really optimistic. Of course, my Jupiter-ness is feeling optimistic. So the techie details, the Sun is at Taurus of 26 degrees, trining with Pluto at Capricorn 26 degrees. Look to your natal chart for 26 degrees, right around there, of Earth signs. These energies will be harmonizing with the Sun and Pluto transit. If you have energies at 26 degrees of fixed signs or cardinal signs, you will definitely feel a creative tension and edge with this shift. A couple of days later, on Wednesday, May 19th, it is a day to take creative action, but focused action. This type of action with a 1-2 punch. You can certainly add more value with targeted discipline actions with a day like today. We have a couple of cosmic energies supporting us. First of all, we have our second quarter moon at the very tail end of Leo, Leo at 29 degrees, right before it moves into Virgo at exactly 12:13 p.m. Pacific, 3:13 p.m. Eastern. And you know that when the moon goes into that second quarter phase, it is time to take action on all of your intentions to let the universe know that you are serious. So the theme is, with this Leo second quarter moon, act with confidence. What focused creative action will allow you to commit to your intentions? As you take action on your new moon intention, be ready by taking responsibility. What is one thing that you can do today with confidence to act upon what you desire? Creativity today is in your limitations. If you were to choose just one focused action, what would it be? Notice where you have constraints or where you need to create constraint. It is in these restrictions that you have the most control and value. And this constraint comes from Venus trining Saturn, which happens a little bit later today. So at 6:58 p.m. Pacific, 9:58 p.m. Eastern, still on Wednesday the 19th, Venus comes into an exact trine, harmonious trine with Saturn, where Venus is at Gemini of 13 degrees, trining with Saturn at Aquarius of 13 degrees, where your limitations harmonize and start to pay off some dividends. What sense of restrictions pays off and what has the most value? For a day leading up to and away, you may be faced with limitations or have reached your boundaries. It is in this place at the edges of your container where you can find focus and sustainable value. Who says you can't find joy and freedom in responsibility and restrictions? It is by creating your own boundaries and structures that you can be truly free and grow in your most sustainable way. You now have the support to add value by creating these necessary boundaries. For the techies here, Venus at Gemini 13 degrees, trining with Saturn in Aquarius of 13 degrees. If you look to your natal chart, look for 13 degrees in your air signs. So Gemini, Aquarius, Libra, these energies will harmonize with this transit. And if you have energies at 13 degrees of fixed or immutable signs, you will feel creative tensions with these shifts. It's also on this day you might feel a little bit of edge as the sun is at 29 degrees of Taurus right before it moves into Gemini. Anytime there's a planet at 29 degrees just hanging out at that very last degree before it moves into a new sign, we always kind of feel that edge of it. We kind of the shadow side comes up, especially, well, the sun, at least it's only spending a day there. So if you start to doubt your creativity, or on the other hand, you feel just like a little bit overconfident and overzealous about your own convictions, just note the sun honing into that last degree of 29 degrees in Taurus before it moves over to Gemini. So on May 20th, we have sun entering Gemini at exactly 12:37 p.m. Pacific, 3:37 p.m. Eastern, where now we have Mercury, Venus, and the Sun all in mutable Gemini, where now we officially have the season of sharing engaging information. It's going to feel pretty freeing for a lot of us who have immutable energies. So while the Sun is in Gemini for this next month, what witty dialogue and messaging will you create this season? Now through June 20th, the Sun, our creative vibrancy, gets the conversation started in quick thinking Gemini. The Sun represents our solar consciousness and what we do so well, that differentiating value in our brand. The Sun is our creative force and energy. And while the Sun sails through Gemini, our creativity hones in on building relationships by the way of sharing ideas. Sharing ideas isn't just spouting off facts, but instead about casting your curiosity wide and understanding many different perspectives. It's not that Gemini changes its mind, it's that Gemini can see how points of view shift over time. As you focus into Gemini season, put your thinking and teaching hat on, get curious about your message and what you want to share through your business and brand. As you listen to others, you will get the insights you need to fine tune your message and communications to call in those with shared interests and values. We're going to get an extra dose of Gemini, especially since Mercury is in Gemini right now. And then we're going to have the long extended Mercury and Gemini season because of the retrograde. So this is really a great time to start putting together your messaging. I'm personally really looking forward to it. Now, if you are a Gemini sun, happy solar return. You'll be having your birthday in the next month. And if you are a Gemini rising, as the sun crosses over your rising sign, you will feel a burst of energy. And if you happen to know your midheaven, if you have a Gemini midheaven, you were born to live your purpose of creating your big message and sharing it wide to the world. If you have Gemini on the midheaven, this is a time when Gemini crosses over your midheaven where you are going to reap the rewards if you have been putting in the work. Right after the sun moves into Gemini, it makes a square off with Jupiter on exactly May 21st. That is Friday at 8:03 a.m. Pacific, 11:03 a.m. Eastern, where your potent visions and inspirations ignite. What are your dreams or inspirational downloads envisioning for you? Can you allow yourself to feel into this huge and expansive energy? Your creativity can be set ablaze with this visionary energy. As the sun, our creative vitality, and Jupiter, our expansive belief, square off in the sky, you are ready to fly high. Channel this energy into creative pursuits. Even if the energy feels untamable, you can edit it later. It doesn't have to be perfect. Be aware that this energy can flow into feelings of over generosity, being overly generous. Be aware of what you agree to so that you don't regret it later. However, you channel this energy, enjoy it and share it with others to help amp up your enthusiasm. The sun will be at Gemini of 0 degrees as well as Jupiter at 0 degrees. This is a fresh and potent meeting where fascination and curiosity spark. Look to your natal chart for energies at early degrees of mutable signs, that's Gemini, Virgo, Sagittarius, and Pisces, as these will add to your creative fuel. If you have natal energies at early degrees of air or water signs, these energies will help you flow. It's also around this time, as we are starting to shake things up and start to go with the flow, things start to feel free, that Saturn is like saying, hold on, well, let's be responsible. Let's dig into our commitments. Let's really make sure we have the knowledge and the structure that we need. So Saturn is putting on the brakes right around Aquarius of 13 degrees and 31 minutes. You can take a look at your natal chart as right before Saturn puts on the brakes to go backwards. And so right before, Saturn is a social planet. It's pretty far out there. It's not a personal planet. And so as these kind of big behemoths start to change direction in the sky, they definitely have to step on the brakes. It's like the bigger the truck or the bigger the car that you have, the earlier you have to put on the brakes before you come to a complete stop. And so Saturn will be coming to a complete stop for a few days before it goes retrograde at the beginning of next week. And as it stops at this Aquarius at 13 degrees and 30 minutes, we are going to be feeling the pressure to break free of the old. This is really hanging on still within a tight square, a tight orb with Uranus. So very interesting to see what may or may not happen around this time, this week, as we have personal planets that are wanting to shake things up and get on the move. And then we have our fixed planets, Uranus and Saturn, who are now just like putting on the brakes. So what can we do besides worry? Well, this is what you can do. You get to decide what role and responsibility you want to have to create social equitable change. A few days before Saturn's retrograde, where it appears to go backwards in the sky, Saturn will drill down on this 13 degrees and 31 minutes, barely making a move. In reality, Saturn has been on this single focused point of Aquarius of 13 degrees all of May. Saturn's second traditional home is Aquarius. And when in Aquarius, instead of building up the structures and containers which we learn our place in the world to succeed, Saturn is breaking the rules he built so that he can live free from social restraints and conditioning that hold us back through shoulds and duty. In 2021, as we create this new version of social equity, part of this breakthrough and challenge of Saturn in Aquarius is building sustainable businesses and equitable leadership. The old Capricornian patriarchy and hustle is dying. Breaking free can be scary for some, especially those that fear change or hold tradition at all costs. For the rest of us, this is the change we've been working for. I'd like to actually share a little personal story. Earlier today, before I was recording this, I had an all hands meeting for my chamber ensemble. I think some of you know that I am a professional clarinetist, and I play clarinet in a chamber ensemble, which is a small group. It's not an orchestra. We have 5 people, and our group is called Quinteto Latino. And for the last 15 years, we've been playing classical music written only by Latin American composers. Over the last year, we reorganized into a nonprofit organization officially, and it's been really wonderful to watch Armando Castellano, our founder, build a board. Because when he was building the board, he didn't want to do it in this white-centric, post-colonial way. He thought that there was a better way to do things, especially since our vision of how we play classical music, first of all, in a chamber music, second of all, playing only Latin American composers. Like, we had already been shaking things up in music. So why not shake things up and challenge and break through in the way that we were going to structure our nonprofit organization? So I remember one of the first few days, somebody was asking me, our executive director was asking me, how does one put together an organization that's not based in hierarchy? And the first thing that came to my mind, many months ago was like, well, most indigenous cultures don't have a singular form of leadership. They have like a community, a circle of leadership. And so inevitably, one of the things that came through was this idea of shared leadership that really harnesses safety and inclusion. And what were some of these other words that I just had this meeting? So I'm getting all kinds of signals from the universe. Thank you, universe. I am on my path. And in this process of creating this shared leadership, the organization itself was living these values of flexibility and receptivity and open-mindedness, and not just diversity, but inclusion and the safety that is built from that inclusion. And so if you can imagine a nonprofit organization where, the board, there's legal structures that you're required to have in a nonprofit organization, including a board and a board of directors and executive director, all these people that answer top down. And our quintet is building its own nonprofit organization, still within the legal rules, but in our own way that is based on shared leadership. And so this is just such a perfect example of these old systems tearing down this Saturn square Uranus that is happening this year. I just love witnessing how this is actually working out in real life. So thank you for letting me share my little story. Back to the astrology. So if you're ready to bring on the change, get curious with what roles and responsibilities you want to bring on this much needed social change journey. As a social planet, we will only feel these Saturnian shifts on a subtle level, but while Saturn comes to a stop during these few days, this is where you are likely to feel the pressure, and Saturn's themes will be all the more loud. Look to your natal chart of 13 degrees of fixed signs, so that's Taurus, Leo, Scorpio, and Aquarius, as these energies are adding to the creative tension now. If you have any energies at 13 degrees of air signs, Gemini, Libra, Aquarius, these planets are supporting your role as a change maker. So we have one more little mini aspect that's happening for us for this week that we get to play with. That happens on May 22nd. That is a Saturday where Mercury squares off with Neptune at exactly 7:43 p.m. Pacific, 10:43 p.m. Eastern, where you get to communicate visually or musically. What big idea can you conjure through spirit? Yes, that is Mercury square Neptune. You are likely to wax poetically today or rediscover your musical artistic side. Feel like adding a haiku to your email signature or creating a watercolor instead of a memo? Today would be the day. Play with the dreaminess and forget the guilt from not being able to focus. Details and specificities are not on the agenda for today. What will you create as you connect to your consciousness and unconsciousness today? And more importantly, how will you add this to your business in the form of value? Yes, it's there. Mercury will be at Gemini of 22 degrees, squaring off with Neptune in Pisces at 22 degrees. Look to your natal chart to see if you have any planets or angles near 22 degrees of mutable signs, Gemini, Virgo, Sagittarius, and Pisces, as these will add to your creative tension. Air and water signs near 22 degrees will add to your harmonious flow. All right, everyone, that's all I have for this week of May 17th through May 22nd, 2021. Enjoy your week. The greatest thing that you could do to me to pass things forward is to head over to Apple iTunes and leave a rating and review for this podcast. Let others know what you think, and each rating and review helps this podcast be more visible to listeners like you.